Hey everyone, it's Jack, Dark Iron Dwarf. I'm here to make my Metal Twitter overview video. This is just for fun. If you follow me on Twitter, you know that my whole shtick is being very sarcastic and pretending to know what I'm talking about. So don't take this too seriously. I've got some foster kittens who might make an appearance too. So the thing about Metal Twitter as a community to understand that's so important is it's not the first thing that comes to mind. Unlike maybe the average metal fan, even maybe the average metal album, when you think about Metal Twitter, there is really no average person involved. And the reason for that is that the core of Metal Twitter is, of course, the metal fans. Those go back, 40, 50 years even. And there are some 70-year-olds on Twitter who never listened to anything outside of those first, 30 metal records that they liked, and they are still going. And then you have people from every generation since, including a brand new generation, who is discovering metal and heavy music through bands that previous generations, look at that butthole, previous generations may not have even thought of as metal. So everything is kind of up in the air as far as who's allowed in from the music side. There's certainly some gatekeeping from the sense of old school people, looking at new school people getting into metal with things like Spirit Box and, on and on like that. But there isn't any gatekeeping with being part of the metal Twitter community. Now, there's one asterisk on that, and there is a subsection of the community that does gatekeep when it comes to stuff like fascist ideas, racism, just in general being shitty people. It kind of self-polices itself. Even that is different from when I started with like metal social media around the year 2001 or so. 1999, 2000, Relapse message board, Coalesce message board, places like that. There was no policing whatsoever. A lot of people's personality was being a dick. It was very cool to not welcome new people. New people weren't welcome, so why should we make them feel welcome? And there was a lot of lurkers who were nice people, but the community was run by those kind of assholes because they thought it was funny. And I think I definitely noticed very quickly on Metal Twitter that those kind of people were still around, but they were definitely sequestered. They were kind of friends with each other. So that was the first thing that I really, really appreciated about Metal Twitter as a community. There's no gatekeeping whatsoever on who is there. And the sections of people that you get, not only are they international, cosmopolitan, all around the world, every income level, every education level, but they are the most interesting people out there. Anyone who's into metal is usually a little bit weird. Even if they aren't weird as a human being, they're weird up here, and metal kind of scratches that itch. And then that runs the gradient all the way to really like genuinely crazy people, street crusties, freegan vegans, people who their entire identity is one thing, that kind of has to do with a subsection of the subculture. You still have people on metal Twitter now, mostly people from the earlier generations who are way too tied into music as part of their identity and are trying to protect themselves through protecting music and albums and genres. You'll see that from time to time, and it's pretty bizarre, especially when compared with the rest of the people now. Now, one of the other great things about the lack of kind of the gates on the community is not only do you have all these different people coming in because of their love of metal, but the people who love metal are bringing in weirdos who don't even like metal but like weird people. Artists, just free thinkers in general. You see a lot of people who are into visual arts, tattoos, of course, there's a huge crossover on. Even stuff that's less obvious, like photography, fashion, makeup. I follow a few people that I found through Metal Twitter connections that do their own makeup and styles and stuff, and they're just like these incredibly talented, weird people. 300 followers. They're just kind of doing it for themselves and some friends, and that is what Metal Twitter is actually all about. That's kind of going to be the crux of this video is the fact that, yes, at the core, of course, you have people like Cayman Riffs or K-Man or whatever you prefer to call him. We call him Cayman around here. You have people like Cayman who, great person, super active. That's an understatement. Maybe the most active metal person on Twitter. he is bringing together all these people because of the music. That is the interest, that's the shared commonality. It's really cheesy, but music is what brings us together. That's what creates Metal Twitter. But what makes it special, what makes it worthwhile, is the people who come in after that. When they see their friends interacting about metal music with other weirdos, they say, oh wow, those people are weird, I want to go hang out with them. Now, there is an interesting dynamic to Metal Twitter because the doors are so open. It is nothing like going to a metal show. It is nothing like, say, putting up an ad on Craigslist, hey, local metalheads, let's meet up. It is not like that at all. And the reason is because you have a lot of people on there who that is their metal space. There is no metal in their free time with their friends and their family outside of them listening to the music. And you hear that refrain again and again. None of my friends listen to metal. I'm the only metalhead I know. And that bringing them in makes it much more interesting, because if everybody was just kind of, yeah, I got into Metallica as a teenager, and I check out new stuff now and then, but I really love the old stuff. If everybody was like that, the community would be very dead and very barren. And oddly enough, there's still thousands of posts a day. A picture of Ozzy, a picture of Black Sabbath, a hundred likes and some comments. I don't get it, but it is part of the community. It's part of that vibe of the people who are on there, who are just like, every day they wake up and they're like, yep, I still like Black Sabbath. And, I don't blame them, but it's sort of strange to me. But it's definitely a subsection, worth mentioning. When you have those different age groups, you also have different approaches to social media. You have different approaches even to technology. Why am I on this app? Why am I pressing send on this? Obviously, everybody is a little bit different on that too. And those things are going to naturally happen anytime you have, a few generations. And definitely 2 generations are on there right now, maybe soon to be 3. If anybody is still having children, they probably aren't. But when you get those subsections, there are so many that I could talk about, because, like I said, what makes it interesting is those subsections. One weirdo opens up the door to another group of weirdos. And by the way, I mean that in the most positive sense possible. I'm sure that's clear by now, but you can use it in place of like artistic people, interesting people, basically anybody but the average Twitter user, which are these, like between the MAGA people and the people who are just retweeting stories from, the New York Times and stuff. You get a lot more bang for your buck in the metal Twitter community with the way people are kind of brought in by it. And that was what was especially rewarding for me, because I am sort of an extrovert. I have like a strong personality. I like to make people laugh. I'm totally comfortable being the center of attention, but I'm not big on like going out. I'm not big on like, it's the end of the day, I can't wait to go and meet a bunch of people. So Twitter is perfect for me. I recently posted something that kind of talked to my philosophy on metal Twitter a little bit, which is people seem to kind of downgrade online relationships. They're not real, they don't mean anything. I'm still really lonely, even though I know a lot of people online. And I guess for me, it's like, because it works for me in a certain way, it's like I want to spread that to other people. It's okay if this works for you as like your social interaction. Like, I'm very social at work. I work with a big group of people. I'm always interacting with people all day long. So to not go out to a bar at the end of the night but still be able to talk to people about stuff I'm interested in means the world to me. And to be able to talk to people who I didn't think I had anything in common with. I was certain I didn't, but it turns out it might not matter, because they're still cool people and you can chat with them. Or you do have plenty of stuff in common, and that little cursory, scan of a human being isn't actually good enough to tell whether you are going to get along with them or not. Now, there's another interesting piece to metal Twitter, like any community, is not only is it a community about metal, getting together, talking about music, appreciating all of the weirdos, it's also a social community, right? It's people interacting, it's anthropology, it's sociology. And the number one thing that people should know about metal Twitter is, again, unlike going to a metal show, you meet a lot of different people. Now, take, for example, politics. you have the entire gradient of politics, even just within metal Twitter, which is strange. If you went to a metal show and you even brought up politics, it would be, mainly homogenous with probably a couple of outsiders who hopefully you don't know what they actually think. But on Twitter, you have everything from people who are very, very open and honest and out there about, say, their like leftist policies or preferences, to right-wing people who are like that, all the way to people who are just as strongly believe as strongly as those people, but do not bring it up. They have like those strong reactions. They read comments. They have the stuff to say. They disagree. Every day they're on Twitter. There's stuff that they are just like, oh my God, this is not what I agree with. But that's not part of their personality. It's not part of their online persona. And you have that entire gradient, which I prefer. I really like having people on there who will jump in. I like having people on there who are like, I'm never going to get involved. You see people jump in who are almost never involved, and you're like, ooh, this is going to be good. And it's a little bit different from just general Twitter, because usually the people who are kind of like involved in the discourse are doing it to have fun. They're doing it to talk to people as opposed to try and win people over. There's so much cynicism and sarcasm in the metal community already. Winning someone over, like changing their mind, is almost like a sarcastic notion at this point anyway. Another interesting thing about the community as human beings and as kind of like a sociological experiment is there are a lot of really, really beautiful people on there. And I know what you're thinking. Didn't I get into metal music to get away from the beautiful people and be around people like me? And yes, absolutely you did. But what we're finding out is when the gates are open and people see, well, I don't necessarily have to look a certain way or act a certain way to interact with people and be part of that community, you get a much bigger cross section of people who may never be caught dead at a metal show, but are big music fans, love to talk music, maybe just even appreciate the art, the mixing. Might be a drummer who's not really into metal music, but is always looking for like the next cool thing. You can see how like you can go on and on and on with what's bringing people to the community. I think that's incredibly different from most other communities. A community based on X, pick almost any other thing, the people are going to be much more similar. It's going to be a narrow frame of discussion. And you see time and time again on metal Twitter that when there is a narrow frame of discussion taking place, there's a group of people who are pointing it out and are kind of annoyed. They want something more interesting. They are making it known that they would like more from their society, from their societal interactions than say, I love the first 4 Iron Maiden albums, and let's go have a beer. There's nothing wrong with that at all. But you see time and time again people like, I know that you like Iron Maiden. I know you like Black Sabbath. So I appreciate that, because while I'm kind of like a live and let live person, I need people like that are like, this is boring, this isn't good enough. Or on the flip side, the policing of people being dickheads, people being racist, people not being who they say who they are, which is something you don't usually think you have to think about. And I don't even mean personality wise. I mean, fake profile picture, it's not actually the person, that kind of thing. Very strange. But the reason that I bring up the beautiful people is because I am a huge flirt. I've been married for 13 years, and my wife and I just split up, and I basically stopped flirting, not just because I was married, but because the culture was so tense, even towards people like me who have absolutely no ill intentions and see flirting as something that's fun. It's like a way of demonstrating that you're okay, almost. Like it changed into something completely different when everything became kind of like sexualized, and of course when women took as much control back as they could take to this point, thank God. There was just a general shift, and don't even go towards flirting if you're not ready to be slapped in the face or whatever. That was really hard for someone like me, because that was the way I interacted with people, guys, girls, just kind of like playfully chatting with them, being funny. It didn't matter who it was, any age, whatever. So I really appreciate being back in a community where you can flirt with people in an appropriate way, and they appreciate it. They can actually understand that you are not the next thing for you is not to have sex with them or conquer them, you know, as a personality or whatever. You're just having fun. You're winking at them. You're waving at them, whatever. And it's a lot more fun when the people are really, really beautiful and kind of give you a little bit of a feeling like this. I've pointed this out on Twitter before, but when you meet somebody who you have a lot in common with, and they're funny and they're interesting, I've gotten to the point in life where that's enough for me. But friend, relationship, I want more time with you. You know, if I'm not physically attracted to you, but all those other things are true, we still might be able to figure something out that'll work for us. And so when I meet people like that on Twitter, and then they also happen to be like a beautiful person to look at, or beautiful to look at in the sense that they have great style, or they're really talented with their visual arts, or even something like having a really unique sense of like aesthetics in the way you post is like a little bit like, ooh, to be like, this person is like a little special. And I posted, you know, about this too, but when you see somebody on Twitter and you interact with somebody on Twitter that you like, unlike real life, you can sort of like collect them, right? You can follow them, you can comment on their posts, you can sort of get a little bit into their world. It's a lot easier to do appropriately on Twitter than it is in real life. And I tend to do that with people who give me that feeling, and there's nothing inappropriate, there's nothing sexual about it. Most people's mind goes there every time, but it's much more of an appreciation of like, you often forget how beautiful people are because of how horrible people can be. And if you have 6 billion people in the world and 5.5 billion are absolutely horrible, it's hard to forget that 500 billion people are amazing and beautiful and wonderful. And that has been a big lesson for me on Twitter as well, that unlike those message board interactions back around the year 2000, the average person is like, yeah, no, I'm not here to be a dick. I'm not here to be a gatekeeper. I'm here to meet people. And there's a subsection of people that if they don't have anything nice to say at all, they won't say anything. So that creates a very likable community. So between the metalheads that have been there forever, the new metalheads, them bringing in these people from their lives who are also kind of strange or counterculture, creating that melting pot that doesn't necessarily need to melt to be beautiful, right? You can jump over to a friend's world. I have a lot of Spanish speaking friends, for example. You can jump onto one of their worlds, meet some of their friends. You know, this friend is a metalhead. I'll follow them. This friend posts nothing but Simpsons memes in Spanish for me to work on my Simpsons. Follow. Side note, the Spanish-speaking Simpsons community on Twitter is unbelievable. It's one of my favorite communities. I should definitely recommend some specific follows, but it's so much fun. But the bringing together of people, the having it be there, and still having it be about the music has been fantastic for me. I am not at the top of the food chain. People like, you know, Cayman Riffs, who I mentioned before, people like Timmy T, Doomfrog, Space Wanderess, people who you see, Brennan, people who you see in everybody's inner circle. These are the people who are often not posting a bunch of their own stuff, although they usually do. They're interacting with people. They're commenting. They're saying, hey, this is cool. They're giving thumbs up. They're giving approval. They're being hot. You know, all those things. It's very, very hard to be popular on metal Twitter and not deserve it. And I think that's why I've worked so hard to be myself, succeed on my own terms, and appreciate the people who I'm, you know, sharing this with. I have way more followers now than I ever thought I would have. My average interactions are so incredibly high, and I know that from jumping around to other people who have way more followers than me. And I know it's because of legitimate relationships, interactions, talking with people, getting to know them, appreciating them, appreciating their weirdnesses, appreciating the fact that we don't have to have anything in common for me to like them. We have so much basis in the real world on, if you don't have any utility for me, then I don't need you in my life. Well, what about just the fact that beautiful people are around, that someone else likes the same record as you? At the very beginning of Twitter, that's all I wanted. Post a record, hey, I like this one too. Oh, cool. Yeah, that's good. You know, I'm not quite as alone as maybe I thought I was when it comes to certain things. And then, you know, as the months go on, you meet hundreds of people, you interact with, you know, thousands of people, you find great music, you probably eventually meet some people, you know, offline and get to know them that way. Maybe in your community, you make a friend who, you know, you get to go to concerts with, where before you didn't have a metalhead friend. And then on and on to those other interests. Even if you're not there to make friends, the ability to learn about other things, other artistic endeavors, other arts, you know, let's just say arts, stuff that's being put out there, all the promotion stuff aside, which you'll notice I did not mention at all in this video, all the promotion stuff aside, just being on there and seeing what people do and appreciate and enjoy should bring joy to you. I've posted before that if you can get to the point in your life where other people's successes make you happy, you'll never be unhappy again. You'll always have something to be happy about. And the more people you know, the easier it is and the more joy that's in your life. There's still a lot of negativity online. I pretty much just ignore it. Everybody that knows my page and follows me knows that I don't even try and post bad reviews. It's just I don't have the time for it, and I'm mostly positive. And you know, even when I post something that like is like negative, like not good, my point is I'm fine. I'm not only am I strong enough to deal with this, but I'm strong enough to share it with you, and hopefully you can either you know appreciate that I'm going through it, and you know a lot of support coming my way from amazing people who have it, or you'll see, oh, I guess it is okay to post, you know, when I feel like a shitty person and I'm not living up to my own expectations, or you know, even as far as not living up to literal like being a good person, you can admit that. You can say, "Hey, I totally fucked up, and I'm sorry." And I've had a lot of success with that on Metal Twitter because of the people. If it was any other community, I don't think I would have as much success with that. Being honest about who I am. There's no agenda for me. I'm not selling anything. I'm not trying to win anyone over to anything at all. I'm just here to appreciate everybody. So hopefully this was not too meandering. I really hope it was fun. That was the point. If anybody has any comments or any feedback, I would appreciate it. I wanted this to be 10 minutes and it's 20. I'm going to stop it now. Love you guys. Take care of yourself and kiss your pets for me.